This is part 10 in reading COVID wastewater data, and this is part 3 at looking at sampling methodologies. In this one, we're going to look at the effective sampling frequency, so how often they're sampling the wastewater for COVID. Now first, we know that the COVID concentrations in wastewater solids and wastewater liquids are correlated with the reported incidence of COVID cases, so the higher the wastewater concentration, the more cases there are. And the purpose of this paper is to acknowledge that first, daily measurements are not common for wastewater monitoring programs. So they're downsampling from the ideal 7 days a week to figure out what the gold standard should be for sampling. And in this study, they found that a minimum of 4 days a week or 4 samples a week and 5 samples a week is necessary to detect trends identified by daily sampling. So that's 4 days a week for the percent change method, and then 5 days a week for the Mann-Kendall trend test. For the percent change method, they're looking at the formula that the CDC uses, but instead of 15 days looking back, they're using a 14-day look-back period, where the percent change is 10 to whatever the slope is, minus 1 times 100. And the MK trend test is a non-parametric test that looks at a time series dataset. Now, stepping back a moment, the wastewater concentration of COVID was found to precede trends in incident clinical cases in communities, so it's an early indicator of when spikes or decreases are going to occur. And wastewater monitoring is great because it captures both symptomatic and asymptomatic individuals and doesn't depend on test-seeking behavior or testing availability. And in this study, they looked at San Jose Santa Clara Regional Wastewater Facility, which serves 1.4 million residents, over 17,000 businesses throughout Silicon Valley. What's important is that for both methods used, the upward and downward sensitivities were poor at low sampling frequencies, but improved as sampling frequency increased, where these two methods were able to identify increasing trends as well as decreasing trends. And this was true for Delta, BA1 Omicron, and then BA2 and BA5 Omicron waves. Now, the big takeaway here is that when you're in a low sampling frequency per week, so 2 samples per week, you're only about 25% sensitive to capturing changes, but as these increase, so at 4 samples per week, which is what they recommend, you're sitting at about 60% able to detect these changes. But when you get up to 6 samples a week, then you're getting closer to about 85% sensitive to detecting these changes. So to be truly reflective and representative of what's happening with the wastewater, we need to make sure that our wastewater testing facilities are sampling at a high frequency rate to be able to capture what's happening with the COVID ebbs and flows in the waves.